Well, I'm here to review step number 7 of the 67 steps. This one's called Martin Seligman's Salary Slave and Learned Helplessness. We're out of the cage and into the jungle. And this whole episode was about learned helplessness and how it affects you. Martin Seligman is an author and a researcher that studied dogs. He put them into a box, and when they tried to get out of the box, he would shock them. After this sequence happened a number of times, the dogs would just give up and lay down on the ground and become depressed. They learned that they were helpless to their destiny. And he took those same dogs and put them into a smaller box that they could easily get out of. And when they tried to get out of that box, he would shock them again. And the same thing happened. They became hopeless and learned that they were helpless and got very depressed. A similar observation was done with monkeys that were put into a cage. You would think that a monkey in a cage would be happy because it's protected, safe, and provided for. But researchers found that the same species of monkey in the jungle were much happier and thriving, even though the jungle is more risky. And this applies to you because you are the monkey in the cage. The modern school system is the cage. Rather than going out and seeking our own knowledge, the modern school system teaches you learned helplessness by saying, you're going to read this book, this chapter, then this chapter, then this chapter. If you were picking out your own learning resources, you'd be in the jungle and you'd be much happier. And learned helplessness is a relatively new phenomenon because in history, you couldn't afford to be helpless. Everyone knew how to grow their own garden, knit their own clothes, fix their house, care for themselves. But today, the modern world is so specialized that it's taught you to feel helpless about your own self-care, and you don't fix your own car, you don't fix your own TV, you hire specialists to do that. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with having specialists, but to the degree that you feel like you're helpless is to the degree that you'll feel depressed. And feeling depressed is not part of the good life. Health, wealth, and love and happiness is the good life. And Ty teaches us that people have learned helplessness too through health. They're continually waiting for the next book to come out about which exercise program they should do, but they never necessarily take any action. They're waiting for results to come to them or sources to come to them. And he says there's never a time in life where it's been safer to take risks. These days, at least in America, you could have a business that could fail and you can go bankrupt and still wind up okay. So he says these days we should try everything. If you're trying to be in a relationship, why don't you try online dating? Some people feel helpless to that fact because they feel like either someone should just come to them for a relationship, or that if they try online dating, they may come across a stalker. But Ty says the solution to that is easy, and that is that you can just meet at a public place. But those that take risks find big rewards. And one way that Ty likes to determine if you are practicing learned helplessness is an idea that came from his mentor, Alan Nation. Hold on while I rearrange this piece of paper. Alan Nation says, you should think back to when you were 14 years old and figure out what you wanted to do. Because he says at 14 years old, this was when we were thinking most clearly with the least amount of anxiety. And the question is, why didn't you pursue that? Was it because you felt helpless? You were waiting for someone to just kind of hand you the scenario? Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, says that he innovates his way out of a problem. And Ty says the antithesis to helplessness is creativity. So think back to when you were 14 years old. What did you want to do? Because we probably gave up on it too easily. And of course, if you're in the jungle, you need to make up for people caring for you by you having drive, persistence, and resourcefulness. These days, there's no excuse to not know something because you have Google right at your fingertips. So there's oftentimes not a lack of resources, but there's a lack of resourcefulness, which will cause you to feel unhappy. You'll be much happier hunting for information. So Ty's question is, what is one thing that you wanted to start or try but didn't because you felt helpless? And what is one thing you feel helpless about right now? And what is one creative idea that can help you take control of that? Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.